All right, here we are, early April. We've got March numbers to talk about, Larry. I think we're seeing some seasonal norms playing out, upticks in sales and whatnot. We would expect to see that year after year.
Yep.
Um, Real estate seasonality is funny like that. It's pretty consistent. The actual
Yes.
numbers within those trends, though, have been varying, and I think we can talk a little bit today about how sales and pricing has changed um, versus last year.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we dig into the numbers and start looking right off the bat, we've seen sales uptick. I mean, we can look month over month, but again, we all know what happened January,
Yeah.
February being super weak months. Year over year, sales overall are up. I would say across the region, we're averaging somewhere around 5% increase in overall sales from last year. Keeping in mind the last 2 years have been some of the worst years we've had recorded over the last decade. So good news though that we've seen a little bit of an uptick year over year in activity. We have seen a decrease in price though. So as much as we're up 5% in the amount of units that are selling, we're down about 6% in that average price. So we have seen a bit of a shift there, a little bit of a trend there happening with pricing,
Mhm.
still coming down. So no good news coming out of that part of it. The mix of homes that are selling, again, we're still seeing a lot of those lower price homes that are selling, the under $1 million price point, stuff like that. And then when you get up into the upsize type homes, the family type homes, 4 bedroom, 3, 4 bath homes, where people are moving up to the next level, those homes are still seeing not only stalled activity, but we're seeing definitely a stall in price and a retraction there. So nothing new or nothing surprising out of that. That's been the trend we're going through. Obviously, we had at the beginning of March, we had the U.S. go to war with Iran, so that's had a profound impact on what happened in March, no
Yeah.
doubt about it. And interest rates have held steady. We haven't seen any increase in or decrease in the overnight lending rate. One thing we did see though is we've seen some volatility in the fixed rate market. So we
I
have
was just
seen a
going to
bit
say
of
that. Yeah.
we've seen a little bit of an uptick in rates there. Again, is that tied to the whole Iran thing? I don't know, man. But I know you're well connected in the finance world out there. I don't know if you've talked to any of your connections and heard anything.
I was talking to a mortgage broker this morning, actually, who he and I were chatting about exactly this topic, and he said it's definitely the war in Iran. The Just a month ago, you might have been looking at on a insured purchase,
Yep.
maybe even just under 4%, or
Yeah.
call it somewhere
Starting
between
numbers around 3.89.
389 to 419, depending
Yep.
on your file.
Yep.
That same applicant now is probably looking at somewhere around 459.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a significant jump
Yeah, about a
in a
half point
month.
or so.
Yeah. That's a pretty significant jump.
Yeah.
So,
And then on refis or renewals, maybe even just a tad higher.
yeah.
The one thing that was interesting though, and I was talking to a mortgage broker, not a bank representative, but he mentioned that RBC was kind of the exception, and of course RBC doesn't deal with the broker channel, so he was
Right.
getting this from a colleague who worked at RBC. But you and I both have contacts at RBC,
Yep.
obviously, but he said RBC has been a little bit more competitive on their renewals compared to the other banks and lenders, which see how long that lasts. Usually the big banks are all pretty similar.
Yeah. Usually, RBC's been more competitive, I found, over the last couple of years, especially on the renewals.
Hmm.
TD gets bullish from time to time, but ever since their whole big fine and everything that happened in the U.S. last year, they've kind of let their foot off the gas, and
Yeah.
Scotiabank's actually stepped up a little bit, but they've gone quiet again. So it really kicks back and forth, but I do find RBC's been more competitive lately. Regardless, I think people are looking at a little bit of an uptick, and don't forget we are right now in the worst range of those 5 year mortgage renewals from the low rates. I mean, we're right in the heat of it right now. So now until the end of
Yeah.
the year, we've got 40% of those mortgages being renewed, and you're going to have a lot of people out there that are taking a 1.6, 1.7% mortgage rate, and if they were renewing last week, like you said, they're somewhere up in that four and a half
Mid
to five
fours.
percent range now.
Yeah.
That's a big jump, man, and that's going to have and not to mention their home is worth potentially 20% less than they paid for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, it's
a lot of,
difficult times.
factors there that are going to put pressure on people's finances. It's also going to put pressure on inventory because you're going to have some of those people that just can no longer sustain, especially when that new payment kicks in. So you're going to see some shifting out there. I'm certain of it.
Yeah, it'll be tough times for certain demographics for sure.
Uh,
One of just switching gears a little bit, one of the things that we also saw the last over the last month is of course that seasonal shift we talked about already. But part of that is usually an influx of new listings, new inventory.
yeah.
Spring market, that's what happens, right?
Yep.
And in some markets, while that's happening, it hasn't been happening with at quite the pace we thought we might see. And as a result, we've seen months of inventory come down a little bit in some communities.
Well, if you recall, John, last month we talked about such a big jump in the average months of inventory
Yeah.
across neighborhoods and even the region. Some that actually startled us how much inventory was up. and that was reflective, obviously, in the sales. But here we are a month later, and it's almost shifted back the other way. We're actually seeing some neighborhoods that are reflecting a seller's market when we know damn well that's not the case. Those
Yeah.
markets are not performing as sellers markets, but they are basically showing from an inventory perspective as a seller's market, or closer to balanced even for some. All the more reason just to support what we talked about last month, that you can't take a month over month or any particular period like that and use that as a benchmark as to performance of your neighborhood when you're looking at
Yeah,
pricing.
one month isn't a trend.
No, and I mean, not every neighborhood performs the same. It's amazing when you can look from neighborhoods and see such big swings, but that's the way the market works out there. Some neighborhoods just take longer in general to sell, so they're going to carry more inventory.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that the pricing is up or down or anything else because of that factor, but we have seen a significant shift in that number month over month. You're right.
Yeah, I mean it's a positive number. Like we were just saying, of course, it's not necessarily a trend. I mean, fast forward a month and we'll be talking about April numbers, and maybe it's switched. The pendulum has swung the other way again, right?
Yeah.
To be determined.
So,
But
one thing that kind of goes hand in hand with that months of inventory is days on market. That's another
yeah,
metric that we track, and that's still climbing. We haven't seen a decline in that number. So,
very very isolated pockets where you've seen improvement, but they're far and few between.
and it's the amount of relistings that are currently happening right now. Even people just relisting at the same price, I find, has become a common trend.
Hmm.
And most consumers probably don't understand or see it. I mean, they really wouldn't see it on their end. They just see the listing come back. They wouldn't
Yeah,
see the past listings. But from our end, what we say, I mean, all they're doing is trying to get some more exposure on that property, and just by relisting it, especially when you're the same price. But days on market right now, I mean, in most markets, we're pushing upwards to high double digits, even pushing in some markets triple digits over the 100-day mark as an average. So we
hmm,
haven't seen that. Like the 10-year trend typically sits somewhere around 22 to 24 days as a
yeah.
10-year trend, and we're sitting upwards right now as a 10-year trend for the region, pushing up in the high 80s. So
Yeah, I mean, it does. You pointed out already, though. It does vary quite a bit from one community to the
it
next, and,
does.
and from the product type as well.
Yep, absolutely. I mean,
But
condos are still right now, and I mean,
off the
unfortunately,
charts.
they're off the charts. And unfortunately, what most people don't realize is the condo market drives the real estate market. If condos are not selling, nothing else is moving. So until they can
Yeah,
find a way to refire that condo market, I think we're going to continue to see a prolonged retraction in activity.
yeah, and the reason for that is it being that the fact that when you say it drives the market, like the reality is a lot of buyers who when they acquire their first place, chances are it may very well be a condo. So as they wish to upgrade to something else, families growing, having babies, whatnot, it makes it very difficult to if they can't unload that property, they can't move forward with the purchase.
Exactly.
And
Now, the only thing
and
I'll say that I think
everything,
has affected
yep,
that in the last decade is the amount of people that have bought investment properties
yeah,
or condos as investment properties. I mean, 15 years ago, nobody was buying a condo to put it on Airbnb. But in
hmm,
2020, 50% of the inventory being sold were people buying them exclusive. I think it was even closer to 70% of the inventory being sold in the condo market was to investors.
yeah,
So,
and that's
I
not
mean, those,
sustainable.
yeah. So speaking of that, now you talk about the rental market, and when housing started to drop off and prices started to dip, you started to see an increase in the rental market. Well, now we're going the other way with that as well. Rental rates have come down, occupancies have opened up, and we've seen a shift there as well. And part of that could be the students not coming back, the foreign students, the reduction in the number of immigration numbers Canada's letting
Hmm.
in. That's all going to play into those factors. But
It all rolls up.
yeah, it's a trickle effect that's right across the entire industry right now.
So, I mean, I'd like to see that condo market really get moving again. I don't think anybody wants to see any kind of fevered pitch like we saw on a number of fronts, frankly, through the COVID years. But we need to kind of get back to balance, and to have everything grind to a halt, it's counterproductive.
Well, John, it's funny. I'm sitting here. I got a grin on my face. I'm thinking of this mortgage broker who's pretty active on social media. I won't say his name. Um, if you're on social media at all looking at mortgages and real estate, you probably know who I'm talking about.
Hmm.
And he's been pretty critical of real estate agents lately, coming out saying, "Oh, the real estate agents are out there saying, oh, the market's up, the market's happening, the market's coming back, business is up." And he's like, "You can't trust real estate agents. They're horrible real estate agents. Are out there. All they want to do." Well, John, I'm going to sit here today and I'm going to tell you that I don't think for a second the market's up, and I don't think it's turning the corner tomorrow. I think we're still sitting in a pile of crap right now, and I still think the market's hurting. And I still think that anybody's out there feeling they need to be pressured into buying or selling should cool their jets. Nobody's putting any gun to anybody's head. If
Hmm.
you are in a position that you need to buy or sell, buckle up, put on your seatbelt, strap on your helmet because it's a damn bumpy ride out there right now, man.
Yeah.
And from every angle, I mean, I was fortunate enough in March. I was able to get one of my listings that's been on the market a while. We managed to get it sold, and I think we did pretty good when it was all said and done. I also worked with that client on the other end, and we were able to put a deal together to buy. But we put in offers on other properties, and we backed out at the home inspection because some of the stuff we found. What I want to say is that even though there's a lot of inventory out there today, there's not a lot of great inventory. Um, Buyers are particularly picky right now, and they have every right to be. And when they're picky, if your place is not exceptional, a lot of them are going to look right past you. So there's no middle ground anymore. You're either going to be extremely exceptional and you're going to attract a buyer that's looking for that, or you need to be at the other end of the spectrum where you're a fire sale because you don't have anything to offer and you just need to find the right person that's going to come in and willing to buy something that doesn't have a lot of value because they're going to invest in it. But the
Mhm.
middle of the road there today, where you've got a house that you haven't touched in 10 years, getting a little bit dated, roof's a bit old, you don't have any selling features today, and that's going to make it tough on a lot of people. So strap in, man, and buckle up and be prepared for some turbulence on the way through your sale
Yeah.
if you are looking to get into the market.
Yeah, it's no, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head right there. It's not easy times. It's not like it
No,
was a few years ago. And I
it's
think people need to go into it with eyes wide open, understanding the challenges that they're going to face, have realistic expectations, and and perhaps a backup plan to an extent.
well, it leads me to another thing that I experienced in the last couple of weeks is you know sellers still have a misunderstanding of the market when it comes to price. And you
Hmm.
still have agents out there who are willing to tell people, "Oh, your house is worth that. Oh, I can get you that number." Um, you need to read between the lines and follow the facts because that's going to make your process a lot harder. Um, John, you and I were talking about the number of agents in the business and how many have gone away in the last couple of
Yeah,
years. I mean, I think um, ARIA's numbers showed that about 12% of agents have left the industry in the last 24 months. A
yeah.
lot of those agents are your discount agents, people that when you were selling a house in 2 days and you didn't have to do anything, they were making some money. But now that we're down in the weeds and now you got to work hard and now you got to know your strategies and you got to have your
Hmm.
marketing synergies put together and everything done. A lot of those discount agents, they're not surviving. They're falling off. They can't afford to do business, and it's reflected in what's happening out there. So, I mean, I've experienced that firsthand in the last couple of weeks up against that challenge, John. I know you and I've talked about it quite a bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
We run into it all the time. The reality is that there's alternative business models, if you want to call it that. There's a time and a place for it. There's a time when it works. But in a tough market, usually when the rubber hits the road, that business model just doesn't fly.
no,
And it's just it's a business,
it
that's the
is.
key word. In a business, in order for a business to survive, it has to be profitable. It has to make good business sense. You got to make good, sound business decisions, not only for yourself as a realtor or your brokerage, but for your client.
For your
And if
clients.
all of those things don't come together succinctly, it's I like you can't chase bad business.
No,
I'm,
it's it's easy to get listings.
yeah, like that's what I'm getting at. Like
Yeah, there's a lot of agents out there willing to buy listings. That doesn't guarantee you a sale.
yeah. Do you want to list or do
So
you want to sell?
if somebody's willing to give you what you want up front in a commitment to a number, the first question I would ask them is then if you can't sell my house for that price, are you willing to buy it? And
Yeah.
if they're not all that confident in the market and what they're doing.
Well,
So
or they've got the wrong strategy. So, you know.
it's again this type of market change the rules change, man. You need to work with people that are on your side for the right reasons. So
Wow. On
um,
that note, let's focus on some positive, good business over the next month. If there's anybody out there who's got questions, you can be certain Larry or myself are more than happy to give you the straightforward, honest answers that you need in a time like this. So reach out anytime.
and jump in, have a look at the numbers, see what's happening in your area. Not for the sake that you need to buy or sell, but just be aware. You know what was happening back in 2022. Make sure you're keeping it up to date on what's happening in 2026. And we're trying to do that for you.
Yeah.
Until next
Okay.
time, man, it's been a pleasure. Let's hope April has a few more sunny days in it, and we got some better things to talk about in May.
Sounds good. Talk to
All
you
right,
then.
bud. All the best.